A Wizard of Earthsea is the most comforting book I have ever read. And what do I mean by that? Do you remember when you were a kid and you read a fantasy book or a science fiction book and you were just filled with wonder and amazement and your imagination was just firing on all cylinders and time just seemed to not even exist anymore? That is what this book did for me, but as an adult. This book is truly something else. And I'm not sure if I exactly knew what I was getting myself into when I started it, but man, am I happy that I did. For those who do not know, it follows a young boy named Ged, and he shows that he is able to harness kind of the magic of the world at a young age. So therefore, he is sent to a magical island called Roke, which has an academy on it for wizards. And all of this takes place in the world of Earthsea, which is a giant archipelago of islands surrounded by an ocean. And it is one of the coolest worlds I've seen. If you're a big fan of sailing and things like that, you're going to really like this because there are some definitely cool sailing scenes within this book. But overall, I would definitely describe it as a small scale magical fantasy academy story, if that makes sense. If you like wizards that carry staffs, if you like lots of magic, it's not like it's realistic like First Law trilogy or something like that, where you're not really going to see much magic, or a Song of Ice and Fire. It's very much magic based, this book is. And it honestly reminded me a lot of The Name of the Wind. So if you're a fan of both of those books, or if you're a fan of, The Name of the Wind, I think that you are going to absolutely adore this. I would even go as far as to say that The Name of the Wind was heavily inspired by this book. You guys can let me know if you agree. This book honestly sets a lot of the foundational pillars of fantasy that we see today. So I wouldn't be surprised if Patrick Rothfuss was heavily inspired by Ursula K, who is the author of this book, because in all honesty, I thought some things were straight up copied from this book. I mean, a lot of this book focuses on like the names of things. And if you know the true name of something, you have power over it. And the book is called The Name of the Wind. I mean, it pretty much focuses on learning the names of things so you have power over it. So I don't know if I'm the only one who felt that way, but I definitely felt that there are a lot of similarities. But I feel like if you like The Name of the Wind, this, in my opinion, is more refined, but less deep, if that makes sense. This book is quite thin. It's a quite small book. I think it's like in the 50,000 word range, which is like, obviously just over novel length. But it's more refined than The Name of the Wind. And I feel like if you want a quick and easy read, you should check this book out for sure. I would say the prose in this is the biggest reason why you want to read this. It just feels like an easy Sunday morning. It's relaxing. That's why I call it comforting, because it doesn't take much to read this. It is so effortless and easy. And I just think that if you just sit down with a cup of coffee, maybe it's the weekend or something, it's in the morning, and you can just sit there and just read this whole thing in like a day or two, you're going to have a blast. It's truly fantastic. And the reason why I say it's not as deep as something like The Name of the Wind is probably because of its size. It just doesn't spend too much time in the world that it's set up. So obviously before I mentioned Roke, where the magical academy is, it doesn't spend much time there. It's only like a few chapters at that magical academy, and then Ged leaves. So it's kind of like, I wish that we could have spent more time there. But I'm a big believer that sometimes less is more. And sometimes you don't need a 1,000-page book to tell a story that you could have told in 200 pages. And that's why I think I like this so much, because it's efficient with its storytelling. It doesn't waste much time. There's not a lot of fluff. It knows what it wants to do and what it wants to be. There's even not much meandering. Like, it tells its story and it's done. I never felt like there was a single dull moment in this, which is just fantastic. You know, I think a lot of times I read some of these gigantic fantasy books, particularly The Way of Kings, for instance, which is like 1,000 pages. And I felt like for the first 500 pages, it was just kind of like, geez, like, what are we kind of doing here? But that's just me. A lot of people love those massive doorstopper books that just take forever to get through. But I prefer these smaller books, not because they're necessarily easier to read, but like I said, they're just efficient. And Ursula K. Le Guin really makes every word count, every sentence count. She reminds me a lot of Cormac McCarthy in that sense. You're never going to get long, drawn out, multi-page character interactions and dialogue where you're just sitting there like, okay, like, let's get to the point. You're going to get just maybe a few back and forth and that's it. But those few pieces of dialogue that you're going to get are going to be incredibly impactful, just like how Cormac McCarthy does it. So if you're a fan of minimal dialogue, you're going to love this. I think that if you're the type of reader who really wants to spend a long time in this world, I think that this book might feel a bit thin for you. So just keep that in mind. I mean, I loved it, but there is a point where I do wish there was more. And I think that's a good thing. I really do. I think that if you are reading a book and you get to the end and you don't want it to be over, I think that's really good. Whereas I've read some books and I'm just like, okay, I'm happy that we're done. Like, that was a great journey, but I'm happy it's over, because I'm just kind of exhausted from it. And so A Wizard of Earthsea never really gave me that feeling ever, just because it is so short. But I think that, I don't even have any notes for this book, like I usually do in my videos, because I wanted to more talk about the vibes than go through the world building and the magic system and all that stuff, because it's a short book. Like, you don't need to sit here and watch an hour-long video of me breaking this thing down. You should just read it. And that's what I really want to hopefully do with this video, is just to convince you that if you are looking for a light, quick, fun fantasy world and story that you can get invested in for a short amount of time and then walk away from it with a bunch of different philosophical ideas and quotes and thoughts and meanings behind all of it, then you are going to just adore this book. I think you should check it out no matter what. I rated it a 10 out of 10. It's one of, in my opinion, the best books I've ever read. It's maybe the closest thing I've ever gotten to, a fantasy book that maybe I read when I was a kid, like Percy Jackson or something, where it just, and I'm not saying that Percy Jackson and this are anywhere close to the same level. They're not similar at all. Completely different things. But I would say that amazement and that wonder that I had when I was young, I got that while reading this. It was just truly something special. It was spectacular, in my opinion. But it's not like these gigantic books that you usually find in the fantasy genre. You're going to fly through it. And again, that's what I loved the most about it. The pacing was incredible. The character work and character development was amazing. I really I've just been thinking about this book for a long time after I finished it. It's been maybe one of the most impactful books I've read in a while, just because it had such a deep meaning to it and it just told such a good story. So again, I don't want to just sit here and break down every single aspect of this book, because first off, I don't think I could do it justice, but I don't think it deserves that. I think it deserves just to be read, and then you walk away with your own interpretation of it. So that to me is the best thing I can say about it. It's set, like I said, it's set up a lot of the things that we see today with modern fantasy. So if you're also looking for like that, like a Lord of the Rings, for instance, that is incredibly inspirational and to a lot of modern authors and whatnot, you're going to find it in this. And I don't have like any negatives to say about it. I really don't. It's just that damn good. So do yourself a favor, check this book out. Don't expect any giant wars. Don't expect any world-ending conflicts, any large-scale battles, anything like that. It's not that. It's kind of comparable to Harry Potter in a way, like the early books where it's just very small stakes. But even then, it moves so quickly that you're just not going to get... You're not going to get a ton of time in this world. There's not a ton of build up for like this giant world-ending thing. So just don't expect that. Expect a very small scale story, which in my opinion is the reason why I loved it so much. I think a lot of authors can learn from it. I think a lot of authors can take something away from this. Like if you're writing a book yourself and you're like, okay, I'm getting up to 1,000 pages and I don't really know where this book is going, like read this and understand you might not need that much in there to tell a fantastic story. So yeah, check it out. 10 out of 10. Highly, highly recommend this. There's a bunch of other books on here. And in this series, in the world of Earthsea. So I'm so excited to read the rest of them. Of course, in classic Eric Bowden books fashion, I won't be reading all of these successively and just jumping right in. I prefer just to give it some room. I mean, this was amazing by itself, but that being said, I don't like to just burn myself out with one author in one series. I really like to take my time, and I really like to want to come back to it. That's my big thing. I want to be drawn back to the world. So yeah, I'm super excited to get back to this. It had a lot of great scenes in it. If you guys want to know my favorite scene, I will talk about that at the end of the video so that there's no spoilers, but I feel like I need to talk more about some of my favorite moments in these books because so far I've just kind of been like no spoilers at all. And I want to just mention one part of this that, well, I guess maybe two, that I really, really liked because I think I need to talk about it. So anyways, I'm going to talk about that at the end of the video so that you don't get any spoilers and we can talk about some of these before we move on. But again, 10 out of 10, pick this up, read it. I think you will have an amazing time with it. Just maybe for the prose alone, the prose is incredible, but the story is one of the best I've come across in recent memory. And I will be thinking about this book for a long time. Ursula K. Guin has now become one of my top authors. She's up there with Rothfuss and McCarthy and King right now. So I'm excited to see who else becomes a part of that list at a later date. But Ursula K. Guin is now up there for me. Maybe my favorite author. But I think it'll be hard to top McCarthy because he just speaks to me. But Le Guin really did something special with this book. So I think that about does it for A Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Guin. I'm looking forward to hearing what you guys think about it. If you do end up reading it, or if you have read it, please let me know what you thought. Let's go ahead and talk about what we are reading next. The Fellowship of the Ring, which is the first book in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I plan on reading all three of these books back to back to back as one big book. I think that's the intended way to do it. I You guys can let me know if I'm wrong about that, but I think that is the proper way. It's supposed to be one gigantic book, so I thought that that's the proper way to do it, and I can't wait. I've never read The Lord of the Rings. You guys have told me I have to read it. I've even gotten some comments that I'm not allowed to be a writer if I haven't read The Lord of the Rings, or a fantasy writer, I should say, which I think is quite ridiculous, which maybe I should talk about that in another video. But I definitely think it is foundational, just like a Wizard of Earthsea was. So I think it is definitely required reading. I definitely need to read these, no doubt. That's why I'm finally doing it. I was like, I've got so many other books that are ready for me to read, but Lord of the Rings just seemed like the right thing at this time, because all these other books that have come after it have been inspired by this. So why don't we see what inspired them and what started all of this? So that's why The Lord of the Rings, for me, is so high on the list. I am so excited to finally dive into this. I've watched the first 2 movies. I actually haven't even watched the third one, like all the way through. I mean, I might have seen it when I was younger, but it's like one of those things that I just can't really remember it. And I'm actually really happy. And again, a lot of people are gonna be like, how have you never seen the movies? And it's like, I'm actually happy I haven't watched all of them, because now I can get the full experience with the books and then watch them. And I think it'll be even more impactful that way. So it's just another, good reminder to just read stuff, watch stuff at your own pace. There's no right way to do it. You're never too late to absorb a good piece of art. That's the beauty of art, is it stands the test of time. So you can take your time to get into these things. And I'm quite happy I did with The Lord of the Rings. So I have the books here in hardcover format. I thought that was the proper way to read them. I wanted something just a little bit more premium, if you can see that. I think these are just beautiful. They actually have these gigantic maps in the back. Let's see if I can do this without tearing it to pieces. Holy shit. All right. So hopefully you can see that, which I think is just so freaking cool. Yeah. So I am beyond excited to finally get into this. I don't even know if there's anything that can be said as a preface to my journey into this, because it's The Lord of the Rings. I mean, what more do you want out of this? What do you want me to say about this? It's the greatest fantasy series of all time. Undeniable. There's nothing else to be said. It inspired everything. It's maybe one of the most influential works of literature of all time, regardless of genre. So am I excited to read this? Fuck yes. Am I happy I waited? Yes, because I think I needed more experience. I don't think I was ready to just jump into this and appreciate it. And so now I feel like I'm at that point where I want to start reading A Song of Ice and Fire. I want to start reading Malazan. I want to start reading The Prince of Nothing. But I don't want to go to those before I have the foundation set. So I think that this book, this series, trilogy, whatever, has come to me at the right time. And I think I'm ready to dive into it. I have heard so many amazing things. This is maybe the deepest fantasy world ever created, the most fleshed out, beautiful story, beautiful journey. The world building is obviously just mental. The lore is crazy. So enough said. Let's get to it. Let's start this series. Let's start The Lord of the Rings. Let me just say that. Let's just start it. Let's just dive into it. And obviously you guys will be the first ones to hear my thoughts the second I finish it. I'm going to take my time with it. It's been a minute since I've made a video. And it's it's just how life is going right now. I'm working on a book right now. I'll put that right now up on the screen. So if you didn't see, I have a horror fantasy Western coming out called The Demon Gunner, The Darkness Grows Within. I kind of pitch it as Stephen King's The Gunslinger meets Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian meets Dark Souls. So that's kind of how I'm pitching it. Let me know what you guys think of the cover. I'm so excited to finally share that with you guys. It's been a very long time coming. It's taken about 9 months to rewrite it, and I'm currently in the final editing stage of it. So hopefully I will have it to you guys within the next month. That is my ultimate goal. I usually publish through Amazon, Kindle Direct publishing. So pretty much the second that file is ready to go, you can just upload it and then it's available. So I'm not having this gigantic countdown. I'm not putting a date 3 months in the future. I just want to be like, hey guys, the book is out, go have fun, that kind of thing. Because I learned my lesson with the last one. When you set a release date too early and then you don't hit it, you have to push back. It's not fun. So I just want to just get it out to you guys and be like, hey, it's there, check it out. It's going to be available in ebook, hardcover, paperback, the likes of that. I'm also potentially working on an audiobook for the first Jadorian Saga book, The Golden Academy. So stay tuned for that. If I can swing that, it's a very hard process. So I'm working on it. I'm trying to see if I can do that. But this horror novel, it's my first horror novel. I've never written horror before. It's my first entry into that genre. So I hope you guys like it. I've been told I needed to write horror. So I was like, fuck it. Let's go for it. Let's dive right in, and we're going to give it a shot. And I hope you guys really enjoy it. So hopefully that book will be available to you guys within the next month. I really hope that happens. I think it will, because like I said, we're in the final stages of editing it. So we'll see where it takes us. But that about does it for the video for today. Thank you guys so much for joining me and talking about these fantastic books. If you do end up reading A Wizard of Earthsea, please let me know if it resonates with you, just like it did with me. Or if you didn't like it, also let me know. And if you have any thoughts about The Lord of the Rings, also please let me know about that. I'm always happy to talk with you guys down in the comments below, and let's get into some discussions about books. So that pretty much does it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys next time. And I promised I'd talk about my favorite spoiler moment in the book, and so I wanted to mention the scene where Ged goes back to his original master, Ogion. And this is after he summons that dark shadow and feels like the world is against him. He's failing, he doesn't know what to do, he's lost, he's alone, and he goes back to Ogion, and he sleeps on the floor of Ogion's cottage or whatever. And it was just such a touching moment, because not only was there a lot of philosophy and emotions involved in that scene, I also loved how they didn't really talk to each other, and there wasn't really much said besides what was needed to. Very briefly, Ged didn't really talk to Ogion about what he was going through, but Ogion just kind of knew. And then by the time after he slept on the floor and he recovered and he got his wits about him again, he was ready to go hunting, and he leaves the note for Ogion to find the morning that says he's going to go do that. And I love that scene. It was incredible. It's emotional, very impactful, and it's definitely stayed with me since I finished the book. So yeah, if you guys love that scene too, let me know down below why. But that was my favorite scene.